Do you hate the North Carolina non-refundable due diligence fee? Well, you're not alone. Here's the honest truth. It's actually negotiable, and in some situations, you can reduce it or even make it $0 without tanking your offer. I'll show you exactly when that's realistic and what to offer instead. Hi, I'm Nina Gervasi, and I am a top producing realtor here in the Triangle area, and I help buyers win the right house without overpaying or taking bad risks. Oh, before I forget, I created an easy to understand visual of how the due diligence and earnest money deposit work. So grab the free PDF in the description below. It has helped numerous buyers because of how clearly it spells it all out. There is also an NC buyer cheat sheet there, so be sure to grab that also. We need to start with the critical importance of understanding what the due diligence fee actually is and isn't. The due diligence fee is not earnest money. In North Carolina's offer to purchase and contract, the due diligence fee is a negotiated amount that is paid directly to the seller for your right to inspect the property and also terminate for any reason during the due diligence period. It must be delivered to the seller on the effective date, and that is when everyone has signed the contract and is credited back to you at closing. Here is the kicker that everyone hates. It is pretty much non-refundable unless the seller breaches or a specific clause or addendum applies, and that is super rare. So, just to reiterate, the check for the due diligence fee is made out to the seller's name, must be delivered on the day that they accept and sign the offer, and is non-refundable unless the seller breaches the contract. Keep in mind, you deliver it before any inspections, and no, you don't get it back if the inspections are horrible. This is why so many people hate it and want to avoid it. By the way, I always say it stinks to be a buyer in North Carolina, so I created a video entitled just that. Be sure to watch it after this video. Now, the earnest money deposit is completely different and acts much like the earnest money deposit in most states. The funds are held in an escrow account, typically with the closing attorney, and if you cancel the contract within your due diligence window, you usually get the earnest money back. But here is a quick and serious reality check. If the due diligence fee is not delivered on the day that the seller accepts the offer and signs a contract, there are serious legal remedies that the seller can pursue to get it from you. I know that in some states, buyers have like this 3-day window to deliver deposit amounts, but that is not the case in North Carolina. It is not a promise to deliver. It is a must that it is delivered. So you better really want the house before submitting the offer and having it accepted. Once again, don't forget to watch my video about why it stinks to be a buyer in North Carolina. So, is the due diligence fee required? The short answer is no. The North Carolina's contract literally says negotiated amount, if any. And the North Carolina Real Estate Commission has confirmed the fee itself isn't required by law to form a contract. In practice, many sellers expect one, but $0 could be possible if the right opportunity presents itself or if the deal structure makes sense to the seller. So here are a few examples of when $0 or a low due diligence fee is most realistic. Number one, the listing is stale or has had several price reductions. These sellers are ripe for negotiations to get the house sold. Number 2, most relocation companies are not allowed to accept due diligence fees. So look for sellers using relo companies. Number 3, some off-market opportunities may waive the due diligence fee. Think your neighbor selling directly to you rather than going to market. And number 4, also important to note that new construction does not require a due diligence fee. Instead, many builders use a builder deposit instead of the due diligence earnest money combo, but terms may vary by builder, and it can also be non-refundable. Now, here are some tactics to help reduce or avoid the fee without weakening your offer. First, you can trade due diligence fee for a stronger earnest money. Propose a larger escrowed earnest money deposit, refundable if you terminate within the due diligence period, in exchange for a lower due diligence fee. Sellers will still see commitment while you limit your risk of losing non-refundable money. Second, consider a shortened due diligence period. A tighter timeline for inspections lowers the seller's off-market risk, which is what the due diligence compensates them for, right? Make the period just long enough to finish the inspections. You may be able to accomplish this within 5 days in most cases. Third, get fully approved with your lender. Helps you become a stronger candidate and gives sellers more confidence. A full approval means that you have already gone through the underwriting process and your funds have been verified. A call from your lender to the listing agent also helps quite a bit, because remember, certainty equals seller comfort. And fourth, let's talk about the repair strategy. Keep in mind that houses in North Carolina are sold in their current condition, and that sellers are not obligated to make any repairs. So you need to set your expectations accordingly. Don't expect repairs. They are merely negotiations and not always agreed to. So if you're willing to waive repairs or state a dollar limit that you would ask for repairs, then a seller may consider this. And fifth, you may need to be flexible with the seller terms. For example, some sellers may need to remain in the home after closing in order for them to find a home. This is called seller possession after closing. Or perhaps they may need a closing date 60 days out. Your flexibility with them means they'll be more flexible with you offering a low due diligence fee. Now, here's a pro tip for hot homes. If you're going to push for a low due diligence fee in a multiple offer situation, then stack 2 or 3 of what I just mentioned to keep your offer competitive. You may even offer to pay a little of the seller's closing costs to get the deal done. Remember, the goal is to avoid losing a hefty non-refundable dollar amount during the inspection period if you decide to walk away. So once again, let's review the fine print that will save you headaches in the long run. It is critical that you understand that the due diligence fee must be made payable and delivered to the seller by the effective date. You can wire or electronically transfer, think Zelle. If you're late delivering it or refuse to deliver it, then the seller can send a written demand the next day. If they still do not receive it within 1 banking day after the demand, and that's actual receipt of the money, not just it's in the mail, then the seller may terminate and even pursue both the due diligence fee and earnest money as a breach remedy. So whatever you do, don't play around with this timeline. Do not think that you are an exception to the rules. Just because the state you're coming from operates differently, that doesn't give you permission to act like you're immune to our rules. Remember, the refund expectations, because in most deals, the due diligence fee is not refunded if you walk away. It doesn't matter how terrible the inspection report is or the appraisal value. It is non-refundable if you walk away. And I'll say it again, it doesn't matter how terrible the inspection report is or the appraisal value. It is non-refundable if you walk away. If you continue to the closing, it will be credited back to you. It is only refundable if the seller breaches the contract. Okay. So here is what I advise my clients to consider to do. Start with your cash comfort. What amount are you okay truly risking? Remember, since the due diligence fee is negotiable, but most sellers expect some, so you need to decide how much you might be willing to part with if you walk away. And keep in mind that market conditions may dictate how much due diligence fee is needed to win a home. So if you're not willing to lose a big amount, you won't be a player in a competitive market. That's just it. Match your strategy to the current micro market and conditions. For hot Cary listings, sellers expect a modest due diligence fee and a strong earnest money. Perhaps one thing you can try is to shorten the due diligence window. For slower areas, you can push for a low or $0 due diligence fee with better terms. And don't forget that execution matters. You need to be ready to hand over the due diligence fee on the day of acceptance. Get those inspectors booked as soon as possible. Be fully approved and have your lender on standby ready to move quickly. For the relocation companies, look for those willing to sell homes. Consider new constructions. And if you're really lucky, then maybe you'll win the off-market property lottery and have a seller willing to waive it. Maybe. Well, that about sums it up. Don't forget to go to the description below to grab the PDF that easily explains how the due diligence fee and earnest money deposit work. It has helped numerous buyers because of how clearly it spells it all out. And also grab my North Carolina buyer cheat sheet while you're there. And if you're moving to Cary, Apex, Raleigh, Durham, or anywhere in the Triangle, be sure to book a consultation. I'd love to help you win the right home on the right terms. And check out this video next to learn all about the pitfalls of buying in North Carolina, because it truly does stink to be a buyer here. And I say it all the time. Okay, see you in the next video.